Besides coaching, another really good way to improve is to play different people. Now, you've probably heard that sort of old adage, which is you should only play people who are better than you. And that's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. If you can play people that are better than you, that's good too. But you can play people who are not as good as you and you can still benefit. One of the best ways, and I'd rather replace this saying with the previous one, is play as many different people as possible. Because you learn more from different people. Often there's not like a single line, and I'm going to make an essay about this. There's not like a single line of standard. It can be quite easily. A can beat player B. Player B can beat player C. And player C can beat player A. So it's not that line. And what you need to do is play different people because you will learn to adapt to different tactics, different standards, types of standards, different ways of playing. And it's really, really good. And the best way to do that is to play a league or a box, as some people call it, or even a ladder, which is slightly different. But actually, an even better way, because of the environment, is to play a tournament. A tournament is a little bit different because it is all about now. In a box or a league, you can lose one match, but you can still get promoted. In a tournament, you lose, you snooze, or you snooze, you lose. You're out. You're into the play, or you're into like a separate little tournament. That's often what happens here, anyway. That literally every round, the losers play their own little tournament as well. So there's lots of matches. So you go and enter a tournament, you're guaranteed at least 3 or 4 matches. So it's not you play one then you go home. It doesn't work that way. Anyway, so. One of the best ways is to go in and play in a tournament, and that's really scary for a lot of people. The idea of just playing with their friends and then going to a tournament, wow, that's like a huge jump. That's just like singing in the bath to singing on, X Factor or whatever TV show that you've got in your country, The Voice or whatever. It's like a huge jump mentally, emotionally, but it's a really good step to take. So the question is, how long from when you first started playing until you first entered a tournament? What was the time period? Now, there is no good or bad time period. If it took you 6 months, well, that's pretty quick. If it took you 6 years, that's fine. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to learn from you. I'm here to talk about your stories, discuss your stories. So that is really the question. That time period, what happened in that time period? What happened to make you say, okay, I'm going to play? Sometimes it's almost forced upon people. There's like a tournament at the end of the year and I've been in a club where everybody was entered. You had to specifically say you didn't want to play. And when you told people, I'm not really playing, why? Why don't you want to play? Come on, everybody has fun. You really must. And they really bullied people, literally bullied people into doing it. I have to admit that 99% of the time, the people who didn't want to play, when they played, they said they had a lot of fun. Not everybody, fine. But a lot of people did. And even though I sound very negative about this club, when they forced somebody to play, if the person said that they really didn't like it, then they weren't forced to do it again. I mean, that's just not the right thing. But it's an interesting idea that sometimes we need to be pushed into some situations, and that's the role of the coach in some cases, to encourage people to go out of their comfort zone and try new things. But being in a tournament and, seeing different players, and I mean, in this case, you play anybody within the club. But if you go to something called a graded tournament where you just play your level, you're supposed to be able to just know that you've got a chance of winning. Okay, a new grade B player or a grade C is not going to have so much success against an experienced grade C. But you're supposed to be similar levels, so you should have a good time. So that's the question. How long from when you, more or less, how long from when you first started playing to when you first entered your tournament? Now, if you asked me, I would really struggle to tell you. I mean, it's such a long time ago. I mean, I'm so old. I've got to think it was at least 3, maybe 4 years. And that's because I was very insular. When I first started playing, I played with just one or two people, and like a lot of people, we didn't interact with anybody else, just me and a couple of friends, and we just played. And, we just spent the hour, we just rotated amongst each other, a couple of games me, and then somebody else would come on. And so we were really insular. But then we sort of met a few other people at the sports centre, and we saw what they were doing, and slowly you get introduced to more people. But the sooner that process can happen, the better. The sooner you're exposed to that, the better. Most times. Sometimes it's a little bit too early, and you need to take your time. You don't want to rush in and then have such a horrible experience that you say, well, I'm never going to even play again. I mean, that's obviously not what you want. But I want to encourage you. Go and play tournaments if you can. Even if you don't play, go and watch. Now, I know that the squash is not going to be great, but you'll meet a few people and you'll see somebody maybe your standard, and you can maybe exchange numbers and say, can we play next week, or, something like that, and just experience the atmosphere, and then you'll be less likely to not want to do it when it comes to enter yourself, because you would have been there. You would have been desensitized to that situation. So, if you can, go and watch a tournament. Not professionals, just local players. And preferably, go and play in one. On the screen at the moment is a subscription button. If and only if you think my content is useful, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you're told when I release new videos. On the screen also is a playlist of the other weekly questions. Lots of things to get you thinking there. And also a video that YouTube thinks is a good fit for you based on what you've been watching. And remember, do something every single day to improve your squash. See ya.